Hello and welcome to the first devlog for Ash's Quest. My name's Brianna and I'm the game's designer and programmer. In this video, I'll be going over my initial goals for the project, as well as giving a behind-the-scenes look into the decisions I made when starting development. For a bit of background about myself, I'm a software engineer and artist with a long-running interest in video games and the fantasy genre. While I've been working in the tech industry since 2018, my initial interest in the field can be traced back to the late 2000s when I started getting into game modding. Flash forward to late last year and I found myself rewatching some of my old videos, back when I was still learning the basics of programming and making little projects in OpenGL. And it was through these older videos I found myself getting turned back onto the idea of game development. More importantly, it got me looking at an old homebrew game I invested hundreds of hours into back when I was in high school. Ash's Quest at its core is a spiritual successor to a Game Boy roguelike called Powder. In both games, your goal is simple: traverse through a 25-floor dungeon and kill Beelzebub. The devil, however, is in the details, and when it comes to Old Basil, those are some big details. As with many classic roguelikes, the dungeons of Beelzebub are heavily guarded by hordes of skeletons, liches, dragons, and demons that are very interested in using adventurers as arts and craft supplies.
She turned her into a decorative toaster cozy.
Although I'm a big fan of Powder, 12 years without any major updates has really caused it to show its age. And while there's a lot I do love about the game, taking off the rose-tinted glasses has shown that it often creeps into unfair levels of difficulty. For longtime fans of classic roguelikes like myself, this may not seem like such a big deal, but for the average player, regularly having runs ended by events outside your control can be a bit unfun. So with all that in mind, I shot an email to Jeff Lait, Powder's original developer, and asked for his blessing to work on a spiritual successor to his game, which he was more than happy to give. And with that, I began planning out development for the project that would become Ash's Quest. First things first, I needed to figure out a few things. This was a tough question, as I really wanted to keep the overall feel of Powder and other roguelike games. While a 2D roguelike would be closer in line with that goal, the idea never really clicked with me. While a 3D game will be much more time-consuming to make assets for, it feels like a more natural progression for a game like Powder. These days, game developers have a lot of choices when it comes to engines, such as Unreal, Unity, and Godot. Each one has their own strengths and drawbacks, but there's really no wrong choice with them. That said, for Ash's Quest, I decided to write my own engine in OpenGL. One of the main reasons for this is I've been working with raw OpenGL for over 11 years. I just have more hands-on experience with the API than I do with engines like Unity and Unreal. Furthermore, while other engines have a lot more features and it cut down on a lot of the development time, the system requirements for running or even developing games with them can get very computationally expensive. In some cases, the requirements for even running the dev kits ruled out certain engines due to my laptop specs. This is probably the easiest question: Java, and I have two reasons for this. First, I've worked with Java as a hobbyist for around 12 years, and professionally for 5 years. While I have experience with C++ and other languages, I'm just more proficient with Java. The second reason is Java is incredibly easy to decompile and modify. One of my goals for Ash's Quest is to open source the engine so players can mod the game with the same level of freedom as Skyrim and Minecraft. Or they can learn from the many mistakes I'll inevitably make during development. As someone who started playing Powder in 2008, my memories and experiences in the game were always painted through the Akoi Meeks tileset. These cute and cartoony renditions of the game's monsters and characters have always stuck in my mind as one of my favorite roguelike aesthetics. Part of my intention with Ash's Quest is maintain that same charm and energy that the Akoi Meeks tiles radiated to me, and it was during the early discussions of updating the game that I was shown the Kenny Dalman illustrations, a collection of ink sketches covering the entire bestiary of Powder in a style that complemented Akoi's pixel art. After reaching out to Kenny and discussing his designs, I got his blessing to model the Ashes Quest characters after his bestiary sketches. I've included links in the description to his Twitter and the complete bestiary, so go show him some love. I gave myself a little bit of a challenge. Keep the game under 100 megabytes, as in all the code, graphics, and audio should be able to fit on a zip disk. Not to date myself for knowing what a zip disk is. Now, why would I torture myself like this?
Because why not try? Why not live a little?
In all seriousness, a lot of games nowadays are getting absurdly large and resource intensive. It wasn't that long ago that developers would put a lot of work into optimizing their games, ensuring they were as small and fast as possible. So I figured, to heck with it, why not see if I can make my game as small and overly optimized as possible? Ash's Quest was meant to be a spiritual successor to Powder, and as such, a lot of features will be shared between the two games. However, a spiritual successor isn't a remaster, and Jeff himself suggested I be more open and flexible with my game so that I'm not just making Powder HD. To that end, I've been viewing Powder as a scaffolding for Ash's Quest rather than the blueprints for it. The core gameplay and general lore of Powder will be used as a starting point, but during development I'll be adding my own features and ideas into the game, such as a difficulty slider, allowing new players to get a difficulty slider, allowing new players to get the hang of the game, while also offering some leeway to the traditional permadeath system. Biomes for dungeon levels, such as ice and lava. More bosses beyond the Kraken Minotaur, Golden Tri-Dude, and Basil. In short, adding more depth to the game while still paying homage to the source material. Honestly, I wish I could tell you guys. For a bit of extra background about myself, I've been fighting cancer for quite some time. Unfortunately, after losing my job last year, I've been paying for a lot of those expenses out of pocket, which means I've had to spend a majority of my free time working on art commissions and other odd jobs, which takes away from time I could be spending working on the game. Ideally, I want to finish Ash's Quest within the next year, so that's where this channel comes in. Every month, I'll be uploading 1 to 2 devlogs, letting you guys know the state of the game, what I'm currently working on, and what plans I'll be moving on to next. If you're a fan of roguelikes and want to follow along on this development journey, all you gotta do is leave a like, comment, and let me know what you think. With all of that said, I think it's a wrap for this devlog. If you like what you saw, feel free to do the typical YouTuber thing, and stay tuned for the next devlog, where I'll delve into level generation and the dungeon renderer.